Baby Pokemon just got confirmed to be coming to Pokemon TCG Pocket in the upcoming Gen 2 set. These baby Pokemon have some of the strongest early game attacks with the huge downside of having low HP. The two baby Pokemon that I want to talk about today in this video are going to be both Pichu and Magby. These two new cards are probably going to be some of the strongest starters, however they do have the huge drawback of being very easily knocked out, sitting at only 30 HP. Both of these cards have 30 HP, no retreat cost, no weakness, and then all baby Pokemon have a no energy attack that they can do obviously in the active spot. And the reason I'm talking about both Pichu and Magby are because they both have energy generation, which we already know how powerful that is when we look at stuff that has been meta in the past and that is still meta. Speaking of Giratina and both Magnezone / Magneton. So essentially what makes these cards really strong is the energy generation that they do provide. And because their attack as a baby Pokemon is going to be no energy requirement, they could also be used first. Combine that with the no retreat cost, it actually makes going first in pocket not as bad as it used to be. However, like I said earlier, they are very low HP, and giving your opponent a free KO in a 3-point game might not always be the best. The only restriction for both Pichu and Magby is that the energy has to be placed onto a basic Pokemon, so you have to do it before you evolve into something, which is fine. I like the fact that both of these Pokemon don't have a restriction to their certain types. Although they are not locked to their specific types, let's just take a look at all the good electric types currently in the game that can take advantage of Pichu. So as of right now, these are really the only noteworthy electric type Pokemon that I feel like could take advantage of Pichu. Obviously, electric types as a whole are not really that good. Oricorio is kind of carrying their back, but essentially these are the best ones that I could make use, and some of them have more of like god roll scenarios. For example, Zapdos, if you do go second, you theoretically can do a Thundering Hurricane on your second turn with Pichu. Same thing with Luxray, you could also attack second using its thing, or by your third turn if you do use Pichu. Although I don't really think you need it for Luxray because you do already have Volkner for the energy generation. You probably want to pair it with something that could do some damage, obviously before Luxray comes in, but it is always like a god roll thing. Obviously you have the Alolan Raichu, same thing, you could attack going second on your second turn with Raichu if you do go second, or your third turn if you do go first. Or you could theoretically, with that new support card, the item one that transfers, that's basically a Dawn for electric types. You could theoretically attack with these 3 energy Pokemon if you also have a Zorora combined with Pichu going first, but obviously that is such a god roll scenario as you need the Pichu active, Zorora, the Pikachu, then you would have to evolve into the Raichu with the card, so that's like a very god roll scenario. But in theory, it could be something that could happen to you in casuals like once or twice. Obviously Oricorio is the best electric type currently in the game, and with Pichu you would be able to attack 50 on your second turn if you do go first, where usually going first is kind of a downside for Oricorio as you won't be able to attack right away. Pikachu, just like I said, the 151 able to generate it faster than before. Electivire, kind of same situation as Luxray. You can set it up faster, you probably wouldn't because you do have Volkner. And then stuff like Pachirisu and then your genetic Apex Pikachu actually I think are pretty decent actually with the addition of Pichu, because Pichu has the synergy of being a Pokemon on the bench once you retreat it, and if you do go first with Pichu, you will be able to attack with the genetic Apex Pikachu or Pachirisu for either 80 or 90. Sometimes you might not have all the Pokemon on the bench for the Pikachu, but like Pachirisu or Pikachu 80 to 90 on your very second turn if you do go first, which can one-shot something like a type null before it evolves. So in theory, they actually might be making a return. We gotta kind of see what the meta is, but I could definitely see the synergy with Pichu just because it can be a very strong second, just being able to attack going first for 80 or 90. We've already seen how powerful that is with stuff like Executor EX back in the day, and having a more consistent guaranteed way of doing that actually might be pretty strong. I also threw in this Galvantula because it was pretty decent in Mythical Island, being able to trap something in, and I feel like being able to trap something in on second turn if you do go first for 70 damage would be pretty decent in theory, although it has very low HP. So these are just some of the decent electric types that I said could be paired to Pichu. If you want my honest truth on which are the best of the best, let me just remove the ones that I don't think are that good. I think these 5, actually my bad, these 4 are probably going to be the best Pichu partners, just because I feel like they could provide very strong offensive pressure. Plus, I think Alolan Raichu was already pretty decent. The only downside of Alolan Raichu is that it was always 3 energy, which was kind of too much to get. Like kind of like rolling fast. So maybe with a faster lone Raichu setup, you can start sweeping of it early game. Although, you know, you do want the more energy, but like it will do a decent amount of damage. So maybe a lone Raichu could go. But I do feel like at least these three are like pretty decent with Pichu, and you probably don't even need Pichu for Choreo. But like I said, the ability to go first with Pichu, have this in the back, swap out to it by turn 2, and do that fast offensive 80 to 90 damage can be something that your opponent might not expect. So I don't know. Personally, I feel like this could make a comeback for these two. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the Copium, and we gotta wait to see what electric types come out in the actual set. So for the fire types with Magmy, you know, Incineroar, just charging it up faster could be something. Probably, you know, you probably wouldn't even need it because, you know, Incineroar already has that 1 energy attack. It's just something that theoretically could be used. We have Heatran because I also think these cards are very good of Arceus. So Heatran is just a Arceus combination that you could use in case you were playing against like a fire deck, or not a fire deck, but a grass deck. I mean, you have Infernape, which kind of has some synergy because you do discard the energy. And plus, you know, like I said, you know, going first, you could theoretically rare candy into Infernape, or just going second attack by the second turn. And what you could do is charge up that Infernape, attack, retreat back into the Magmy, and then charge up another attack like that. And then, you know, usually with Infernape, you hopefully already win by 2 attacks. And you should be able to get 2 KOs. So that is something just because they both have no retreat cost. You have Ninetales, which is just early aggression for 90 damage. Once again, it's one of those going first cards. We have the old Charizard EX, just another way to ramp it up besides Moltres. And then we have Arcanine. So Arcanine has been power crept a lot, but in theory, going second, you would be able to attack on your second turn of Arcanine with Magmy. And if there are a lot of good grass decks, it is something that maybe can come back in the meta. So that was kind of my theory of putting Arcanine in this position. So now moving on to the dragon types, because there are going to be 3 dragons that also utilize electric. So this is going to be a synergy of Pichu. We have Dragonite and then Dragonite EX. You know, the problem with these cards were the dual energy. You also have Komodo, which is also electric. If you guys don't know, so Komodo, 150 HP, does 130 damage and needs electric and fighting. Theoretically, bro, rare candy after you use the Pichu going first could always be something, or even just on your second turn. You could play pure fighting, Pichu for the electric. Obviously, you know, you always have to start Pichu, and that is going to be the downside of the baby Pokemon, because sometimes you might not start with them, making them useless in the end game. But however, Dragonite, you could also start using Giga Impact by turn 2 if you do go second. And then the Dragonite one is just kind of funny, because if you're playing Dragonite EX, you might slot in a Dragonite just for that Oricorio matchup. Or plus, you know, just why not, because you know it's fun to play. The main colorless Pokemon I want to talk about are going to be both Savali and Arceus. Arceus, you can just ramp up faster, and then for Savali, people might not have thought about this, or I mean, they probably have. But like I've been saying, if you have a baby Pokemon going first, you will actually be able to attack with Savali for 100 damage on your very next turn. So it does actually fix the drawback of Savali, because you can either play a baby Pokemon and then have Savali be able to attack on turn 2, or you have to play Zorora, so you still need another Pokemon, but you actually need an additional 3rd card to be able to transfer that energy, whether that be the new item card or Dawn. And that is a 3-card combo, whereas this would be a 2. Well, actually technically 4, because you would also need to evolve Savali. So 4-card combo versus a 3-card combo. Obviously, the downside of the baby Pokemon of Savali is they do get easily knocked out, and you obviously would rather have 3 attackers with the Savali as their non-EX deck. But it's just something that could, you know, theoretically become something maybe. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot more colorless Pokemon that you can ramp up, but I don't think you'd be ramping up these 4 energy attackers for baby Pokemon. And maybe you would, but I just don't see it. So these are just like the 2 main ones I'm like thinking of with these baby Pokemon. Because like Arceus has that synergy. If you go second, you could attack for possibly 130 on your second turn. And because the baby Pokemon is still alive and you retreat for free, it will be on the bench, which does provide that Arceus synergy. Also, there is a lot more usage for these baby Pokemon that could occur. For example, if you do use them, you could theoretically use them on Eevee. So you could attack for 70 also on your second turn if you do go first with Sylveon. Or obviously Sylveon, just an example. This could be for any Pokemon that has a 2 energy attack. Like I've already kind of stated with like the Genetic Apex Pikachu and the Pachirisu. And there are so many of these cards that I'm only going to basically talk about this for an example. But yeah, so essentially, the baby Pokemon, I feel like have a lot of potential in Pocket, whether they actually live up to the expectations of what their attacks actually do, because they do have that huge downside in a 3-point game. is something we will be finding out in 5 days. 4 days actually, because this video will be going live on the 26th. Anyways, if you guys have any combos with the baby Pokemon, Pichu and Magby that I didn't discuss in this video and you think is going to be really busted or cracked, let me know in the comments. Peace out and have a lovely day as always, and I'm so excited for the new set and to make some content for it. So if you aren't subbed yet, and you want to see the new meta decks, you want to see the new best combos, you want to see some funny stuff, subscribe.